Hi, this is John the TRICARE guy. Well, we're back with another episode on money-saving tips about using your TRICARE plan. We created one of these episodes a few weeks ago, put out 10 of our favorite money-saving tips and had great feedback on that one. So buckle up and let's get going. We've got 10 more money-saving tips for TRICARE. So one thing you may have noticed in my previous video about saving money, some of my tips didn't really make it sound like that you're reducing costs, but more like you're just getting your money back faster. And to this I say, exactly. That's kind of the point. Time is money, as they say, and if you can get your money back faster and with less effort, then so much the better. I got really good at this and was successful in getting my reimbursement from TRICARE overseas generally in 3 to 4 weeks. I almost always put my charges on a credit card, and I would use the reimbursement to pay off the card and have no interest charges. But if it got delayed, if it got rejected, if it had to be reworked, and my reimbursement time takes 6-7 weeks, next thing you know, my credit card's charging me interest, and this costs money. So you want to be able to do things right the first time through. Your goal should be to get good enough at submitting claims that it is accepted on the first time. You do that by getting a copy of my book, TRICARE Around the World. We have 2 entire chapters simply about preparing and submitting your claims, and we also have an end-to-end checklist on everything you need to do to make sure that your claim is approved the first time around. So that was a free tip right there. But getting into tip number 1, set up direct deposit with your TRICARE regional provider. This is just one more way to get reimbursed quicker if you're in a situation where you have to turn in claims. With TRICARE overseas, you can do this online, and with the other ones, chances are there's a form that you fill out and send in. But that way, once I got notification that my claim was approved, the money would show up to my bank account within a day or 2 after that. This has to be to a U.S. bank only, and you would be paid back in U.S. dollars. But it works great, and get your direct deposit all set up, not just for you, but your family members as well. Tip number 2. Again, in our previous video about this, I talked about Medicare supplements. But what about those of you on other plans? Most people, I think, will not need a TRICARE supplement, and I'll explain why. First of all, the primary reason is you have a very good cap on your annual expenses. If you are on like TRICARE Select as a retiree, your cap in 2023 is just over $4,000. And if you're an active duty family, it's much lower, probably about $1,000. So think of it as that's the amount that you're trying to insure with a supplement. Are you going to buy insurance on the chance that you might run up charges of $4,000 in a year? It's up to you. But I'll put it this way. There are families who have regular, recurring, predictable costs year after year that reach their cap. Okay, a supplement makes sense for you. But if you're buying a supplement like, quote, just in case you might have expenses, I'd say probably not needed. For me, in a family of 3, our normal annual expenses of medical costs are just a few $100s. And I can just bear that out of pocket. That doesn't even cover the cost of buying an insurance supplement. But you have to make that decision and look at your own situation. Okay, tip number 3. This should seem obvious, but it happens to people. Don't let your coverage lapse. That is, you may have to sign up for a plan and make sure all of your family members are in a plan and you've confirmed it with your regional contractor, and you're setting up monthly payments, or it can be quarterly or annual, but you're setting up those payments. There are times when those payments stop for one reason or another and you don't catch it and nobody warns you, and next thing you know, you're in a default situation and you're not in a plan. So how do you find out? You find out because you turn in a claim and it gets rejected and they say, well, you're not enrolled in a plan. This happens, folks. I can tell you 2 ways that might be most common. One is when you have a newborn and you have like 90 days to get that newborn into DEERS and enroll them in a plan. And if you don't do that, they fall into a status of what's known as DCO, which is direct care only, and can be seen only at a military treatment facility or an MTF on base. And then you have to wait for the next enrollment period to sign up your new child. And there's even a worse one that comes up. You are signed up, you are paying the monthly fee, but you reach your cap. And when you are in select and you reach your cap, you have no more monthly fees for the rest of the year. They'll stop charging your fees. So you would think on January 1st of the next year, those fees would restart, billing to your credit card or your bank account. Not always. Not always. The new year rolls around. Here comes January. The retiree never really thought to check on this, and the contractor did not start recharging those fees. Next thing you know, they're in a status of direct care only, and they don't know it till they turn in a claim and it gets rejected. So you just got to stay on top of this. By the way, I have not heard of that happening in recent years, so maybe the system has been fixed, but all I'm saying is stay on top of it. Make sure that your fees are paid and you're always in a plan. Okay, number 4. Don't automatically buy travel insurance. This is a very personal decision, and we have lots of discussions in our Facebook group about it, and people go back and forth. It comes down to 2 things. One, are you comfortable enough, you know how to use TRICARE if you are overseas and suddenly need to see a doctor? Do you know what to do? Are you confident? And then secondly, if you had to pay out of pocket for those expenses overseas, do you have a means of doing that? So if you answer no to either of those questions, then very likely you might want travel insurance. And then this moves TRICARE to the second payer position. Your travel insurance becomes first payer. Most of them will pay directly to the hospital and make life really easy for you. And if anything is not covered by your travel insurance, then you can turn in a secondary claim to TRICARE to cover that. Okay, as kind of a parallel to that, this is number 5. Think about air evacuation insurance. This is related but not identical. So air evacuation or medical transportation, it goes by different names. This is a insurance policy that covers you if you are hospitalized overseas and you have extended period of recuperation and you're not suitable to fly on a commercial flight, that the air evacuation services will bring you back to the States and you can continue your recuperation and your treatment back home. So this provides a level of comfort to people that they can get back home. They might think that TRICARE has this insurance. It has a very, very limited form of it. The air evacuation insurance under TRICARE will simply bring you to the place, the nearest location that can provide the medical treatment that you need, and probably not to the States. And you have to demonstrate medical necessity, and you might be second-guessed, and TRICARE might say, well, it wasn't medically required, and so TRICARE wouldn't cover it. Okay, but when you buy a commercial air evacuation policy, then no medical necessity is needed. They're bringing you back home for your convenience, and it's much easier to work with. This next one is a little bit in a different direction, and I normally don't go here, but I think it's important for you to know about. And what I'm going to talk about now is VA healthcare, VA being the Veterans Administration and their healthcare. I don't talk about this because my specialty is TRICARE and VA is not part of TRICARE and TRICARE is not part of VA. But for many veterans and many retirees, these 2 programs do complement one another. There is a VA health program completely unrelated to disabilities. It's called the VA Healthcare Program. I'm in it myself. In fact, I don't have any VA rating. So I'm going to show you quickly on their website how to find this. It's really quite simple. You just start here at va.gov, scroll down the page, and you're going to see down here, this is the link to VA disability programs that many of you are familiar with, but you're going to come here to VA Healthcare, which is what I'm talking about. Click on that and we bring up the VA Healthcare program. Click Get VA Healthcare. And brings you to a very simple page, and you simply want this one down here, apply online, and the form is called the VA Form 10-10EZ. You click that To get started, you'll have to log in to the VA system, and the application should take maybe 30 to 60 minutes. Just answer the questions, and in my experience, someone called me about 2 weeks later and got me into the system. It was a really great deal. Number 7. This one is pretty simple and straightforward, but if you're going to be using a credit card to pay for medical costs while waiting for your reimbursement, make sure you're using a card that gives reward points. So I did this overseas. I was not only collecting reward points, I had a card with 0 annual fees and 0 international fees, and so I was actually getting paid to use that card and then turn it in and get my claim refunded. So that's just kind of basic financial wisdom, and get rewards back on your card. Number 8, this might come as a surprise to some people. TRICARE works on cruise ships. Are you going on a cruise? Good, you're good to go. If you have to see the doctor on board, get the paperwork from them, a full report and a receipt and so forth, and you turn that in with TRICARE once you get back home. You might have mixed results on this. There's one precaution in that medical care on board a ship can be horrifically expensive, many times the normal cost, even compared to a U.S. doctor. And there's a chance you might exceed the allowable fees, in which case there's a cap on your reimbursement and you'll cover the rest. And of course, a whole lot of people get travel insurance, maybe from the cruise line or buy it separately for reasons just like this. The other thing to know about cruise ship, if you are on Medicare and TRICARE for life, we all know that Medicare doesn't work outside the United States. It's good in the States and in the U.S. territories, but it also works within U.S. territorial waters. So if you are near a U.S. port or in port in a U.S. location or a U.S. territory, then Medicare works. And in that case, if you're on that plan, you'll have 0 costs up to the allowable amount of medical expenses. You're good to go. Number 9, this is probably more for expats than anyone else. But if you're living overseas, but most of your income is from U.S. dollars, then think about using a U.S.-based credit card to pay your bills overseas. That credit card, the issuing bank, will take care of the currency exchange, and banks and credit cards generally give you a good exchange rate, better than you might get drawing cash locally at an ATM or somewhere else. Okay, this brings us to number 10. It's kind of a hodgepodge and something that you may not think about very much, but it has to do with proof of payment. So you are required in some claims to submit proof of payment. Obviously, if you paid in cash, you want a cash receipt or credit card receipt. But you may have to go further than that, showing canceled checks or even a ATM cash withdrawal receipt, especially in the Philippines, where they track very carefully the flow of cash to make sure that nothing is fraudulent. But sometimes it pays to go above and beyond in your claim, in submitting your TRICARE claim. Give them a little bit more than they ask for so that nothing will go wrong and you don't have questions coming up later that delay your claim. So that's it for today. Hopefully you found some tips here that you can use, and please share these with your friends, your other military friends and families that you know of. Invite them to this YouTube channel and to our Facebook group. We'd like to give a big thanks to our sponsor, Jan's Medical Supply, who makes this YouTube channel possible. They also sponsor our monthly newsletter that we send out. You can subscribe to our newsletter by visiting us at www.thetricareguy.com and just add your name. We come out with all kinds of tips, advice, lessons, things that you really need to know about every month in our newsletters. We're not going to spam you, and we don't share your information with anybody else. So hopefully we'll see you there as well. Thanks for joining us, and looking forward to seeing you at our next episode. Bye-bye.